Okay, so thank you very much once again for joining. Please, so for the previous lesson, if you had any question, kindly let us or let me know so that we'll see how well we go about it before we start with the economic anthropology. Please, you have any question? Any question? Hello? Any question?
Oh, please.
Okay, okay, then no problem. So we are going to continue with the economic anthropology. All right. So if you have any question, maybe during the discussion, you have any question that you want to ask, you can just raise your hands and then I will just attend to you. But for the in the interim, I'm going to mute everyone. Okay. So economic anthropology. Right. So when in our other videos, when we spoke about some of the branches of anthropology, we spoke about how Francois coined four particular branches of anthropology as very essential to the discipline of anthropology. Right? We spoke about cultural anthropology, physical or biological anthropology. We also spoke about linguistics anthropology, and then the last one was archaeology. Right? But then that is not the, or those are not the only branches of anthropology. We have medical anthropology, we have economic anthropology, we have anthropology of religion. We have a lot. Right now, they are even trying to bring about what we call moral anthropology. Right. So anthropology has a lot of branches. Now, another one is economic anthropology, just as the name goes, economic. So when it comes in mind, when you're talking about economic, now when we were learning about um, 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 Calcutt Parsons, right? We spoke about his functional prerequisites, right? That is the agile framework. And then we said that we have the adaptation, right? He said that adaptation, so the functional prerequisites are the various functions that every society must be able to perform in order for the society to survive, or in order for there to be cohesion in the society, or in order for there to be solidarity, and then for the society to have a foreseeable future, right? So, and then he attributed the adaptation strategy to the economic institution. Now, the adaptation strategy, we are talking about how well the society adapt to the environment. So it's sort of related to the cultural ecology. So how we adapt to the environment to meet our various needs, right? How we adapt to the environment to meet our various needs. So in as much as we adapt to the environment to meet our various needs, it will be sort of inconvenience or undersimplification to explain economic anthropology outside the context of the society within which the the people are situated. So we have to see economic anthropology in the society or within the context of the society that the people find themselves. So we are talking about economic anthropology, we are talking about the various adaptation strategy of the people in question, right? The various adaptation strategy of the people living in a particular geographical area, how the people adapted to the environment, and then how they adapted to the environment to meet their various needs, right? So economic anthropology, when we talk about economic anthropology, we are talking about three main basic, should I say, processes, right? That is production, distribution, and then consumption. These are the three basic things that you need to know so far as economic anthropology is concerned. How goods and services are produced, how then the goods and services are distributed to the people, and then how consumption also takes place. So now let's move to production, right? Production. Now, we are talking about production. We are talking about how well we are able to transform matter, or how well we are able to transform raw materials, or how well we are able to transform inputs into outputs. So how well we transform matter into a usable point is what we call production, right? How we transform matter into a usable point is what we call production. But however, as I said earlier, it's it is not advisable to explain production outside the context of society. Right? It's not advisable to explain production outside the context of society. Now, for example, every society determines the kind of production relation or the production force that you are going to take into consideration. When we are learning about cultural ecology, I made mention of the fact that it is the culture of the people that determines the force of production, right? How the people are going to adapt to the environment. For example, in a simple society where everything was about kinship, where kinship determines how people are going to be adapted into the society, where kinship determines how people are going to be recruited, who are the people that forms part of the society and who do not form part of the society, how property is supposed to be owned, and then whom you cannot marry are mainly based on the kinship. That is the simple societies. For example, in patrilineal society, whereby people see themselves as they have descended from an unknown male ancestor, that is in the patrilineal society, right? In that patrilineal society, men are given what we call allodial right over land. Right? In simple societies, as I was talking about, in simple societies, men are given what we call allodial rights. Now, when we are talking about allodial rights, we are talking about the right of ownership over land, right? Right of ownership and then legitimacy over land. However, women in patrilineal societies, even though your father gave birth to you, but then you came from a patrilineal society, right? Since you are a woman and then you are not a male, right? You are given what we call a usufruct right. Now, a usufruct right means that you are given the right to use the asset, not legitimacy over the asset. So in the simple societies whereby everything was about agriculture, especially the agrarian societies, right, the barbarian societies, where everything was about agriculture and the rearing of other animals, you need land in order to produce. So how well you are going to get access to the land will determine how you are going to go about your production of goods and services. Right. So in those simple societies whereby everything was determined by kinship, how you are going to be recruited in the society, right? Men, especially in patrilineal societies, are given allodial rights, and then women are given right of usufruct or usufruct rights. Please, Shaban, please stop what you're doing. Okay. So men are given allodial rights, and then the women are given usufruct rights. Now, in the same vein, in matrilineal societies, whereby the people in the group see themselves as they have come from, or they have evolved from a simple, or they have evolved from an unknown female ancestor. That is in matrilineal society. So they see themselves as they have descended from an unknown female ancestor. In that same vein, men are given usufruct rights. Right? Men are given usufruct rights, and then the females, that is the women, are given allodial rights. So in matrilineal societies, females are given the right to own properties. They are given the right to own lands. Right? So that determines how production is going to take place. So you can't explain production outside the context of the society. Right? Now, another aspect of economic anthropology is distribution. Now, when we talk about distribution, we are talking about how goods and services are transferred among people, how goods and services are transferred among people. And then with distribution, we can talk about three main aspects according to Kaupulani. Right? We can talk about three main aspects of what distribution, that is reciprocity, redistribution, and then exchange. Kaupulani, his ideas has shaped the concept of distribution so far as economic anthropology is concerned, right? And then his idea of reciprocity It's very, very important. Then when you talk about reciprocity, what comes in mind is Marcel Mauss, right? What comes in mind is Marcel Mauss. Now, Marcel Mauss, he spoke about how gifts are distributed among people in acephalous societies. How in a non-centralized societies, how goods and services are distributed. Now, we have produced, right? We have produced goods and services. How then do we distribute the goods and services? Right? So mostly reciprocity, there are two people who are involved, right? There are two people who are involved, and then we have you either receive, right? You either receive, you return, and then you give, right? So these are the two people. So we have the one that is receiving, and then the one that is what? That is also giving. That is reciprocity. Now, according to Marcel Mauss, his idea of reciprocity, he spoke about the fact that in order to understand a simple societies, especially acephalous societies, when you're talking about acephalous societies, you're talking about headless societies, societies that are not centralized, so non-centralized societies. In order to understand them, you must understand them from the perspective of reciprocity, how goods and services are being distributed. So according to Marcel Mauss, the concept of reciprocity is how brings about or is what brings about solidarity in acephalous societies. Now, his idea of obligations being created as a means of exchange of gifts, which comes in the form of goods and services, brings about solidarity in the society. For example, the exchange of gifts does not necessarily mean gifts, but rather, as soon as you receive a gift, there's some sort of obligations that has been created that you're also obligated to reciprocate, to give back the gift whenever necessary. Right, you are also obligated to give back the gift whenever necessary. So according to Marcel Mauss, gifts are the extension of the giver, right? So if you are giving gifts, it is the extension of you to the receiver. So gifts also have some sort of symbolic meaning in the society, right? So if you are given gifts, then it has some sort of symbolic meaning in the society. How gifts brings about solidarity in the society. And then Marcel Mauss spoke about the potlatch system, right? The potlatch system. Now, the potlatch system, we are talking about a feast. So it's some sort of institutionalized feast that is being organized, right? A potlatch feast that is being organized. And then during that feast, what they do is that those people, especially the well-to-do in the societies, those people who have much, and then those people who are wealthy in the society, they bring their items together and then they distribute among the people, especially those who do not have in the society. But then the main idea with regards to the potlatch system is that they want to build upon themselves, upon their social status, right? They want to build on their social status. That is the main idea of the potlatch system. They want to build on their social statuses, right? So in as much as they are exchanging gifts, all right, the gifts that they are giving to the people, especially those who are in need of the society, or who are in need in the society, the gifts that they are giving to them reaffirms and affirms their social status. So it gives them some sort of social recognition in the society. So that is Marcel Mauss' idea of the potlatch system. So you can read more about that. And then we can also talk about Malinowski's idea of the cooler rain. Right? We know that Malinowski, he was a functionalist, right? He was a father of participant observation, and then he did his field work among the Triobrand Islanders for some period of years, for some period of time, a long period of time, studied them. But then in his attempt of studying them, he got to realize that these people, the people in the island, the Triobrand Islanders, they were involved in a particular form of exchange. That is the cooler ring exchange, the cooler exchange, right? With that, you have the obligation. Okay, so let me give a brief idea about the Trobriand Islanders. They were doing, because they were simple societies, right? They mainly focus, or their adaptative strategy to the environment was mainly based on human efforts, right? How they use their own efforts, their own intellect to adapt to the environment. So because of that, they were not able to produce much to cater for their basic needs. But then among the Trobriand Islanders are different communities in the Trobriand Islanders, and then you will see that different communities, they had different specialties. Some were involved in the production of beads, some were involved in the production of jewels, some were involved in the production of yam, cocoyam, and all that. So they created a sort of economic exchange. How can they distribute these goods and services among themselves? So that if I am into the production of beads, right? If I am into the production of jewelries, right? How then, if I am also in need of let's say yam, how can I come and then also exchange so that I will also get the yam? So they brought about what we call the cooler ring. Now with the cooler ring, you can only trade with, let's say you are on one particular part of the island. The island, the societies in the island are being separated by a water or a sea or a water over there, right? So if you are in a particular part of the island, you can trade with two different societies that are opposite you. So it's formed what we call a ring that determine how production is supposed to be, distribution is supposed to be made, right? And then in the cooler ring, if you have some sort of political recognition, if you have some sort of political power, you have some sort of political power, you tend to benefit from the exchange, right? So those with political power tend to benefit from the exchange. In as much as the popular system, even though you may have a political power over there, all right, but then it's not some sort of direct. But then those who have some sort of political power, due to the symbolic nature, especially the jewelries and then the beads that are being produced, that are being traded, right? Due to the symbolic nature of those raw materials or those products, right? The people who have some sort of political power use their political power to influence the way the trade is going to be made. So they use their political power to take over the trade. Do you get it? That is a cooler ring. They use their political power to take over the trade. Do you get it? So you will see that every society has their own form of adaptation or their own form of distributive mechanism. Now, you can't take distribution out of the equation, because without distribution, production is nothing. What is the essence of producing the raw materials? What is the essence of production if we cannot distribute them to suit the needs of people, right? What is the essence of production if you cannot distribute the goods and services to suit the needs of the people, right? So that is the idea of reciprocity. That is the idea of reciprocity. Now we are talking about redistribution. Redistribution, we are talking about an economic or economic institutionalized process, right? That concentrates goods and services through the imposition of, or through the advent of taxes or taxation system and tribute systems. So the modern form of tribute system is what we call the taxation system. Now with the tribute system, we can talk about the Malarian big man theory. Now, that was the Malarian big man theory. There was an individual who sort of forced people, and then he accumulates the wealth of the people, he accumulates the goods and services of the people, and then redistribute it among people. Do you get it? Among the people in the societies. And then he do that mainly for social recognition, to build upon his social statuses. Now, so the idea of the concept of redistribution is that you concentrate the production or the supply of goods and services, right, and later on redistribute them among the societies in order to suit the needs of other people. For example, in the modern day, we have the taxation system whereby you pay tax, especially on the consumption of goods and services. You also pay tax on your income. And then all these tax go to the government, and the government in turn use the monies that has been accumulated, right, for the construction of roads, the construction of goods and services, right, and then even the advent of free education. It was through the taxes that the government collected that they use. So mostly the redistribution is to bridge the income distribution among people, right, to also assist especially those who do not have much in the societies. That is the concept of redistribution. So especially the potlatch system can be a form of redistribution because it's some sort of feast whereby people bring different kind of items, right? They bring a lot of items, a lot of which are mostly in farm produce. So they bring these items, right? Then they distribute it amongst the people. They distribute all for the betterment of the people or for the betterment of different uh, individuals in the societies. So that is the concept of redistribution. We centralize the distribution of goods and services through the tributes and taxation system, and later on apportion them to the individuals in the societies in order to bridge the gap between those who have and those who do not have. And then we also have what we call the exchange. Now we are talking about the exchange. We are talking about a situation whereby society has been placed in an economic system called the market. So exchange takes place in the market, in as much as redistribution and reciprocity takes place in the society that we find, the normal society that we find ourselves in. The exchange takes place in a market, and as such, there is therefore the need for imposition of prices of goods and services. Right? There is the need for imposition of prices of goods and services, and with this, the price that you are going to allocate, you are going to give to a particular kind of goods and services is determined by the measure of value that the good has. Now, by the measure of value here, we are talking about how quality the good is. So high quality goods are given higher prices, right? High quality goods are given higher prices, and then low quality goods are given lower prices. That is the reason why we are saying that yes, in as much as we are in academic institution, you need to build up upon your brand, because building up upon your brand, that will determine the kind of salary that you are going to get. So we have some accounting students trying as much as possible to write the professional exams so that they will get easy employment, and then when they get the employment, the kind of value that is going to be placed on them, their salary is going to increase. So in the exchange, so in that particular context, we have been placed in a market, and then the distribution of goods and services takes place in the market. And then just bear in mind that in as much as the distribution of goods and services takes place in the market, right, they take place in what we call the social context, right? They take place in what we call the social context. There's some sort of social relationship that is being formed, even though we exchange goods and services in the market that are distinctive of the society. So as soon as human beings are going to interact with each other, there's some sort of social relations that is created, right? So that is the idea of distribution, which denotes reciprocity, redistribution, and exchange. So exchange, the emphasis is the measure of value that is placed on goods and services, right? We can also talk about consumption. Now, we have produced the goods and services, we have distributed the goods and services. How then are the goods and services consumed? Now, with the consumption, we have those who are the final consumers of the goods and services, and we have those who are the secondary consumers of the goods and services. Now, for example, in the modern context, whereby industries use raw materials to produce and they add value to the raw materials to produce secondary goods and services. In that particular sense, even though they are in production services, all right, but then the raw material that they are using is classified as consumption, right? The raw materials that they are using is classified as consumption, even though they are not the primary consumers, or they are not the final consumers of the goods or the raw materials. So that is how consumption is. So now, in anthropology, when we are talking about consumption, we are not talking about just the consumption, the mere consumption of goods and services, right? But then we are talking about how consumption is situated in the, or how consumption is, or how the goods and services are consumed. For example, we are in a family, yes, whereby we get access to goods and services, but then we have family dinner, whereby we all sit on the dinner table, and then as we are eating, we also tend to what, to communicate and interact with each other. So consumption brings about social relations. So in as much as we use social relations, it is social relations that determine how production is to be made. Consumption also brings about social relations. So that means that economic anthropology is about how we use social relations to produce goods and services, and how those goods and services, right, in turn also bring about social relations in the society. How the consumption of those goods and services brings about social relations in the society. Do you get it? So that is the idea of economic anthropology. Now, we can talk about some other theorists who stressed on the ideas of reciprocity and exchange, right? They capitalized, they gave us more meaning on the ideas of reciprocity. Now, we can talk about Marshall Salin, right? Marshall Salin. Now, with Marshall Salin, he stressed on the idea of reciprocity, right? He recognized that yes, reciprocity is important, but then he gave it a more distance meaning. So the social distance between the people will determine how effective the reciprocity is going to be. For example, if you are very closer to a person, so let's say a very friend of yours. Okay, let me use this example. Now, especially if you are in a relationship with a lady, and then you bought a gift, right, for the lady during Valentine, right? You bought a gift for the lady during Valentine. Now, because of how close you are with the lady, automatically, even though you may not explicitly say that the person should reciprocate it, all right, but then there's some sort of obligation that is created on the lady to also reciprocate the gift that you have given to the lady, right? In as much as it may not, the lady may not reciprocate the gift that you have given to her directly, like in the same, let's say if you bought a phone for the lady may not necessarily buy a phone for you back, but then will also buy something in attempt to also service the kind of obligation that has been created. So Marshall Salim explained reciprocity based on the social distancing, the social relations, how distant is the social relation among the two individuals or the two people who are involved in the reciprocity. That he said that in the situation whereby the social relations between the people who are involved in the reciprocity are very tight, then the obligation is created, which makes reciprocity very functional in the society. However, in a situation whereby there's more of distance relationship between the individuals, that is what brings about the balanced reciprocity. There's a distance relationship between the individuals who are involved in the reciprocity. In that particular sense, the obligation created is not that strong enough. So in that particular sense, reciprocity may as well not be that functional, because the kind of social obligation created is not strong. So he explains social obligation based on the proximity, or based on the kind of, or how the kind of distance between the individuals who are involved the in the exchange of the goods and services, or in the exchange of the gifts. Now we also have who we called Werner. Now Werner spoke about exchange, right? And then his idea of exchange is that yes, in as much as we have transactionary motive of exchanging goods and services, we exchange goods and services with the transactional motive in question or in mind. However, these goods and services do not only have some form of transactional value, but then they have some sort of social life inherent in them. That explains the reason why you have one particular customer that you buy from. Even though there may be a lot of different suppliers in the market, but then you bypass a lot of stores, you bypass a lot of suppliers and go to one particular supplier. Why? Not because of the transactional motive, but then because of the kind of social relations, the kind of social life that is being created as a result of the exchange of goods and services. So with Werner, according to him, the exchange of goods and services is not only for transactional motive, right? But then human beings also exchange goods and services because of this kind of social relations that has been created as a result of the exchange of the goods and services, right? So that comes, or that actually sums up what we call the economic anthropology. So you will see that, yes, even though we are embarking on, or especially individuals, when you look at the modern world, whereby there's a lot of individualism and all that, but then you can see that even though we exchange goods and services, the exchange of the goods and services has also brought about some sort of social relations, has brought about social relations. And then to the extent that we even say that, oh, this person is my plug that I buy things from. Do you get it? So that is Werner's idea of exchange of goods and services. They did not, the exchange of goods and services do not necessarily have only transactional motive, but then there's some sort of social lives that has been created as a result of the exchange of goods and services. So this brings us to the end of cultural anthropology. It brings us to the end of economic anthropology. So if you have any other question, you can just raise your hands and then we take it from there. If you have any question, you can raise your hands. We have just about a minute to end the session. So if you have any question, you can raise your hands and then we will take it from there. So this is the last class that we are having for today. So maybe the next time we will talk about the concepts of agency and then the conflict theory. So if you have any question, just raise your hands and then we'll take it from there. Any question? Any question? All right. So if there is no question, then this will bring about, or this will bring our discussion to an end. So this will bring our discussion on economic anthropology to an end. So thank you very much for your contribution and then your, okay, Michael. Okay, so Michael, you can unmute yourself and then speak. Hello, Michael. Boss Michael, you can unmute yourself and speak here. Michael, unmute yourself. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, can you please shed more light on the cooler or the Portland system and the cooler system?
The Portland system and the cooler ring.
Yeah.
Okay.